To take us through our next session on practical considerations in designing and implementation of financial inclusion policy targeting marginalized segments, please help me welcome to the podium from Money Mart Finance, Gerald Nyakwaya.
So I'll start with, let me start with, who maybe hear from Lawrence from the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lawrence Kupika. I'm here representing the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe. I am employed by POSB as a divisional director for retail banking, but I'm wearing the hat of a representative for BAZ. I will ask you to scroll down my presentation so that I can summarize the pertinent issues in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I hope that the presentation is available and visible. Thank you very much. My assigned topic on behalf of BAZ is breaking down barriers, innovative solutions for banking the unbanked. So I had prepared a presentation which was supposed to be done in 20 minutes, so I will try and summarize issues and leave the rest for our discussion later. So I had in mind the approach that I was going to discuss, the barriers that the unbanked face in being financially included. I was also going to narrow down to innovative strategies and solutions for ensuring that the unbanked are financially included. You can scroll down. So that was my outline. I only have 2 slides. I condensed the presentation for it to be relevant as it were. You can go down. In terms of barriers to financial inclusion, I have categorized them in 5 areas. Most of the issues really have been highlighted by one presenter or another earlier on. Issues of access in terms of geographical challenges. I heard Mr. Sifiso from the Teachers Association talking about the absence of bank branches in outlying areas, high costs of setting up banks, infrastructure in outlying areas is a key issue, and high operating costs in the outlying areas where the business available out there and the cost of establishing banking facilities do not match. We also have poor infrastructure in terms of roads, internet access, and reliable power, which all affect the delivery of financial services. Trust and confidence is another issue where unbanked members of the population lack confidence in the banking sector, mainly in our economy because of a fear of loss of value for historical reasons and other reasons. We also have digital financial literacy issues where, according to FinScope, 42% of adults are considered financially literate, which means that the other 58% would be categorized as financially illiterate, both in terms of financial products and services awareness, but also literacy in terms of using digital solutions that ensure access to financial services. The issues of requirements, KYC, documentation, ETC is an issue, and also cultural issues which have been raised by some of the presenters. Let me quickly move on to strategies that we believe as bankers can be explored to enhance financial inclusion. So we have endeavored to categorize the strategies in 6 thematic areas: regulation, product and service innovation, operational efficiency, AI and digital transformation, financial education, and enhanced accessibility. So in terms of regulation, you can keep scrolling down so that the titles can appear, if you may. In terms of regulation, it is incumbent upon the regulators to create a conducive environment for financial inclusion, promote a multi-stakeholder collaboration in the financial ecosystem, and also promote the restoration of confidence in the banking sector. In terms of product and service innovation, banks will need to look at their cost structures and ensure that the costs per transaction are lowered, which is what exactly Zimta talked about. So we intend to see going forward low cost or zero cost or core fee offerings by banks, products such as micro savings, e-wallets, informal sector solutions. The list is endless, but it's important that innovation be at the center of products and services that banks offer. In terms of operational efficiency, to ensure that the broader market participates in the financial sector, there is need for banks and other financial players to streamline the onboarding processes. We are talking about issues such as being connected to the central registry, sharing databases, having a central KYC repository where banks will share infrastructure and share data, which ultimately will lower the cost of offering financial services. AI and digital transformation is a very important one. We can't do away with AI and digital transformation as we try to customize banking products and services, address issues of exclusion such as distance. AI could be used to actually reach out to outlying areas, optimize credit assessments and financial literacy in terms of financial education content that could be customized and be delivered in local languages which will appeal to those in the outlying areas. So we could develop local solutions using AI and technology, which will ultimately again lower the cost of providing financial services. Financial education is another important one. I will not go to town about that. It's been tackled adequately by previous presenters. In terms of enhancing accessibility, interoperability between players in the financial ecosystem, we are very happy that Starlink has entered Zim, and we expect that banks and other business players in the economy take advantage of Starlink to provide solutions that can appeal to those in the outlying areas. Infrastructure is another. We talked about the infrastructure gaps which need to be worked on to ensure that there is financial inclusion that cuts across and there is appeal. So ultimately, in my view, the solutions in terms of innovation lie around technology, lie around collaboration and enabling environment in terms of regulation, and overall we have to reduce the cost of offering financial services for us to appeal to those in outlying areas, to the low income, and to those that are unbanked. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yes, let's clap hands for Lawrence. I think I was just doing a speed test, so I think we are now all ready to go to the next level. I'll introduce the topic, the session that we are having now. I had not done that deliberately. Our session is session 2, which is practical considerations in designing and implementation of financial inclusion policy, targeting marginalized segments. We are targeting marginalized segments. So I think everything that we are going to be talking about today is addressing the marginalized segments. We have Paul. Paul is joining us from El Salvador. Is that correct? Thank you. So I think it also gives you a picture of how important this event is. We are sharing information with other colleagues from way distant countries from where we are. Paul is experienced in financial inclusion, and his passion is the inclusion of the disabled. So I think, is he online now? Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Paul.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Thank you. I think you can go ahead with your presentation.
So please close your eyes. I will let you know when you can open them again. My name is Paul Sureau. I am a white male with short brown hair in my late 30s. Today, I am wearing a brown shirt and it might not be visible on the screen, but I am comfortably seated in my wheelchair. In the slide presentation, there is the Barrier Free Finance Initiative logo, the organization I represent, which is dedicated to promoting the financial inclusion of persons with disability. So now you can open your eyes. Some of you may wonder why I introduce myself in that way. This is a common inclusive practice to provide essential information for persons with visual impairments. It is a simple gesture, but an inclusive one that reminds us how important it is to ensure everyone gets the information they need. This brings me to the topic of my intervention today: the inclusion of persons with disabilities and what it means in the context of financial inclusion. I don't claim to have all the answers, but what I can offer you is my journey and the lessons I've learned along the way. 11 years ago, my life took an unexpected turn. An accident left me in this wheelchair, and because of it, an all new perspective opened up in front of me. Before that day, I was an investment officer conducting due diligence at financial institutions for an impact investment fund. I believed I understood what it meant to reach vulnerable populations. But in reality, I was blind to an entire dimension of vulnerability. In my previous role, I never once questioned whether the doors of the institution I visited were wide enough to accommodate someone like me. It never crossed my mind to ask if this institution had considered the needs of persons with disabilities in their services. At the time, I was living in Luxembourg, and it wasn't until I found myself in this chair that I realized the bank I frequented 2 steps at the entrance. It might seem like a small barrier, but for someone like me, it is a challenging one. These are the details I began to notice, not all at once, but slowly, as they become part of my daily reality. And there are so many different realities in the disability world. So to begin, I would like to ensure we all share a clear understanding of how disability is defined. According to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, persons with disabilities are defined as those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. This definition reveals 2 key components: the impairment itself, in my case, the lack of mobility, and the barriers that society places before individuals, with steps at the back. When these 2 elements intersect, they create a disability. Now, before illustrating the main barriers for persons with disability in accessing financial services, let me talk about numbers. According to the WHO, there is approximately 16% of the global population, about 1.3 billion people, living with significant disabilities. This is roughly 1 in 7 persons, making this population the largest minority group in the world. Some of you may be looking around the room and thinking, but I don't see 1 out of 7 people here with a disability. And you're probably right, there likely aren't. And this isn't because those numbers are not accurate, but rather because of the significant barriers persons with disabilities face in accessing opportunities like being in this room today. Barriers in accessing education, healthcare, transportation, and employment are legends for persons with disability. And this high-level statistic is only the tip of the iceberg. About the total population, 80% with disabilities, 18% reside in developing countries, where access to services and opportunity is often less accessible. For those who actively promote gender inclusion, did you know that according to the UN Women, up to 75% of persons with disability in low and middle income countries are actually women with disabilities? This highlights the intersectional nature of the issue. Persons with disabilities are represented within all subgroups of the population and are typically among the most marginalized members within these groups. Disability and poverty are closely linked. Around 20% of the world's poorest people have some form of disabilities, and people with disabilities are 50% more likely to experience poverty. And the democratic forecast show that these numbers are on the rise. 46% of people aged 60 and above have disability. And between 2015 and 2050, the proportion of the world's population over 60 will nearly double, further emphasizing the growing need for accessible solutions. These numbers are not just statistics. They represent real people with real life, facing real challenges. They show us that disability is not a niche issue, but a universal one. It is the only marginalized group that anyone could potentially join at any stage in life, whether temporarily or permanent. Access to financial services, which is a powerful tool for economic empowerment, remains limited or painfully accessible to the vast majority of this population. This brings me back to the definition. Remember the societal barriers component? Our society too often fails to provide the accessibility solutions that meet the specific needs of persons with disabilities. So what are the barriers in the context of financial inclusion? Firstly, the physical barrier. These are often the most visible obstacles, such as inaccessible bank branches or ATMs. Actually, ATMs are the worst. In some countries, you find them in the street, located in a 5-meter square room with a glass door and 3 steps at the entrance. Even when I can access it, I struggle getting my transaction done. Pushing the keys on the keyboard is already a challenge. In one instance, the Rehabilitation Center in Luxembourg, a place with many persons with disabilities, the machine swallowed my card because I wasn't fast enough in removing it. It was just impossible to do. Those type of barriers are the obvious, yet they persist in many places. This said, I have also experienced ATM fully accessible, with a second keyboard at wheelchair height and voice commands. Solutions are there. Second, the digital barrier. Digital technologies hold the promise for improved financial inclusion, including overcoming many physical barriers. But they can also create new challenges, particularly for those with visual or intellectual impairment. For instance, websites and mobile banking apps often lack the essential accessibility features like screen readers or voice commands. Did you know that 98% of the top 1 million websites do not include any accessibility features? In short, they are inaccessible. Still, solutions exist. As these interfaces are increasingly used for banking transactions, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines must become the reference guideline. On the Barrier Free Finance Initiative website, you can find a great example. WeVoice is a simple plugin that can be integrated in any app in the world to enable voice command contact. Thirdly, the social and attitudinal barriers. Perhaps the most dangerous barriers are the ones rooted in people's attitudes. Stereotypes and stigmas persist, such as the belief that persons with disabilities are less capable of repaying them. This bias can lead to discrimination and exclusion. Let me share a story that illustrates just how deeply rooted these social and attitudinal barriers can be. When living in Myanmar, my wife and I decided to go for an excursion on the other side of the river, near Yangon, the biggest city. We went to the ferry station, and while she was buying the tickets, I waited outside. I was wearing a hat that day that I put in my lap while waiting. Here's where it gets interesting. As I sat there, people began dropping money into my hat. They saw pity. They thought I was begging. Maybe it was because of my dressing style, but most probably because of my physical condition. What this experience taught me is how quickly people can misjudge those with disabilities. In their eyes, I was in need of charity. In some cultures, disability is even seen as a punishment for past wrongdoings, leading to stigmas and social exclusion. Changing these attitudes requires a fundamental shift in thinking. And how can we do this? With education. I will come back to this point. And there is so many barriers lying at every step of the client journey. I could mention the information barrier. Even if a person with disabilities can physically access a bank, its digital services, and the staff is well trained, they may encounter further obstacles with information that is not presented in accessible formats. This can include legal documents, promotional and educational materials, and many more. Or the barriers linked to policies. The absence of laws and regulations designed to protect the right of persons with disability result in a lack of roadmap for financial services provider to be disability inclusive. And when these regulations exist, they often lack the mechanisms to be enforced. And this lack of adapted policies and processes also applies internally to financial services providers. When I was leading an impact investment department at a microfinance institution in Cambodia, we developed a loan product coupled with financial literacy for persons with disability. My staff was capacitated, and we saw that processes were fully inclusive. In one instance, a loan officer comes to me saying he cannot disburse a loan to a person with disability. So I asked him why. He answered that is because the client cannot thumbprint the contract, a standard signing process for a microfinance institution in Cambodia. So I asked him why not, and he replied, because he has no arms. I found that hilarious and shocking at the same time. And this is not the only an issue for smaller microfinance programs. At the time, I personally struggled to open my bank account at a leading bank in the country because I was unable to replicate several times the exact same signature due to the lack of mobility in my hands. It took me several hours, and I had to mobilize the entire branch management to do what should have been a straightforward banking operation, open a bank account. Still, alternative solutions exist, but they must be legally enforceable. Imagine a world where signing a loan contract happens through a bank virtual reality interface. Unlocking this possibility in the near future is realistic, but requires an enabling legal framework. As I flagged these barriers, I also highlighted that solutions exist already. To mainstream these solutions and ensure true inclusion, we need the engagement from all actors. So why should you and the other financial sector stakeholders engage in disability inclusion? Firstly, disability inclusion is a matter of social justice, a human right. Persons with disabilities are explicitly mentioned throughout the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. As we work to achieve these global goals, it is clear that we cannot succeed without embracing the guiding principle of leaving no one behind. And this obviously includes those with disability. Second, disability inclusion represents a significant market opportunity. Remember, 16% of the global populations are people with disabilities. People with disabilities have the potential to be not just clients, but also business partners, investors, board members, and employees. It is an untapped market segment, highly overlooked, that offers different perspectives to unique lived experiences. Lastly, by engaging in disability inclusion, you can enhance the customer experience for everyone. How? By embracing the universal design principles. You can see those 7 principles on the screen. Applying them at every design stage, whether it is to create a product, setting up your offices, or formulating a policy, leads to innovation for all. For example, consider the ramps designed for wheelchair access. These ramps not only serve wheelchair users, they are also incredibly useful for travelers pulling luggages, parents pushing strollers, or even delivery personnel with carts. Similarly, did you know that 40% of Netflix users consistently use subtitles? A feature originally developed for persons with hearing impairments has become a preferred feature for millions of users worldwide. This is the power of universal design. It doesn't just accommodate, it elevates the experience for all. Now, how can we how can we engage to dismantle the barriers and promote the financial inclusion of persons with disability? The answer lies in a comprehensive ecosystem-based approach. And how do we materialize an ecosystem-based approach? First and foremost, with education. We need to tackle the lack of understanding and visibility about disability-related challenges. Education is the foundation of meaningful changes. All stakeholders, from regulators to financial services providers, must be deeply aware of and engage in disability inclusion. This begins with sector-level awareness raising campaigns, followed by comprehensive trainings for staff. Without this crucial awareness, there can be no progress. Secondly, by doing research, generating accurate information is essential. We must allocate time and resources to collect and analyze data on the financial inclusion of persons with disabilities. Is there any enabling policy? What percentage of persons with disability hold a bank account? Are financial services providers equipped with accessibility solutions? Those questions need answers so they can shape strategy. Thirdly, we need to support the implementation of disability inclusive solutions. Education and information will build solid foundation for engagement. But to drive the change, we need concrete actions toward disability inclusion. The most effective way to achieve this is by involving persons with disabilities in every stage of the process. The disability model, nothing about us without us, ensures that the solutions developed are directly informed by those living with lived experience. In addition, fostering cross-sector collaboration, for example, bringing together disability solution providers and financial institutions, can lead to the creation of innovative, accessible solutions. Remember the Louis Voice example? It was created by a person's experience. Engaging all stakeholders in this collaborative effort is key to build a truly inclusive financial ecosystem. As financial inclusion professionals, each of us have a role to play in this mission. Academics can gather, analyze, and disseminate data on disability inclusion. Research and insight can spotlight best practices and drive evidence-based policymaking. Industry associations and networks can promote disability inclusion of a cross-cutting topic, integrating this focus in the advocacy and capacity building services to members, has the potential to mainstream disability inclusion. Donors can lead by example by embedding disability inclusion components within the project cycle from the design stage to the reporting stage, ensuring that inclusion becomes a measurable and integral part of every initiative they support and catalyze change across the sector. Financial services providers shall embrace the disability inclusion journey, adapting products and services and infrastructure to address the systemic barriers faced by people with disabilities in accessing financial services. This engagement will increase the customer base, drive greater customer satisfaction, and provide a much-needed opportunity to the largest minority in the world. Win-win situation, right? Lenders and investors can integrate disability inclusion in their investment processes, completing an accessibility checklist during due diligence, adding inclusion-related covenants in legal documents, and collecting disability indicators can significantly leverage practices and change behaviors. Lenders have this convincing power, money. Speaking about convincing power, governments and regulators, you have the power to shape an inclusive financial landscape by creating incentive mechanisms and enforcing specific policies that promote the financial inclusion of persons with disability. This responsibility includes safeguarding customer protection through regulations that prevent discrimination and mandate accessibility. By doing so, you can promote equity and channel innovation in the financial system. As you leave this room today, I wish you will remember three things. Firstly, engaging in disability inclusion is not just a moral imperative. It is a smart business decision. It is about growing your customer base and satisfying all customers. Secondly, disability inclusion is a cross-cutting topic that touches every aspect of society, from gender equity to the digital transformation. Adopting a transversal lens and embracing universal design across your organization processes and actions will lead to the implementation of meaningful inclusion. Finally, fostering an ecosystem approach, combining education, data collection, and implementation is essential for driving the structural change needed to achieve true financial inclusion. Speaking in front of you today, thanks to the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, it's a huge honor and a first step toward working together in making financial inclusion truly inclusive. My personal journey led me to fund the Barrier-Free Finance Initiative because whether by destiny, opportunity, or both, I found myself at the intersection of the disability world and the financial inclusion world. Advancing this cause is my passion and my commitment. I invite you to join the Barrier-Free Finance Initiative as we are creating a community of practice. We have developed tools and methodologies to promote disability inclusion, specific for the financial community. But we cannot do it alone. We need you. Together, we can ensure that financial services are accessible to everyone, including the 1.2 billion persons with disability worldwide. Engage and join us in our mission to create a world where financial services includes all of us. Thank you very much.
Wow. That was deep. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
That was deep. I would ask,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would ask you to hang in there, I think for the next maybe 30 minutes in case there are people who have questions for you. But what I can tell you is we have heard from the central bank. They are already taking initiatives to make sure that everything that they are doing now, everyone is included. I like the statement where you said nothing about us without us. I think that should be the mantra of financial inclusion. So
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
I also put this as a challenge to financial institutions to say, you have heard Paul speaking, now the ball is in your court. What is it that you're doing to make sure that you address financial inclusion issues that are affecting 1.3 billion, he said, is the biggest minority. And it cuts across all races. So we really need to think about it. I looked at the ATM and I was like, wow, it's so wrong. We have companies that are launching apps for the blind, but they don't even have voice assistants like what he was talking about. I think it's something that we also need to talk to the regulators to say, if an app is coming and there's nothing addressing the disabled, then it should not be launched in our market because we are being exclusive. So it's something that we really, sorry, I'm preaching. Okay, thank you, Paul. Next online is Lloyd. Lloyd is from, yeah, I'm going this way now. Lloyd is from IPEC. I've had an interaction with Lloyd before when we were having a debate on who regulates mobile money. Yeah, I had lessons from him. So over to you, Lloyd.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, thank you. So when Paul was sharing with us, I just thought he has just set the beginning of my presentation. Do you know that we are all just a risk away from happening? Do you know that? It doesn't matter that you are here today. You are just a risk away from happening. Life is full of unforeseen or unpredictable events. So if we are faced with those things, we need to be able to manage risk. And here I want to talk about making sure that those who are marginalized, those whom we consider to be poor, those whom we consider to be not very important, they also face risks. And if they face risks, we need to put mechanisms in place to make sure that they are equally protected. For you who are in this room, you are able to manage risk because you probably have money. If you fall sick, you can go to a doctor and you are attended to. If you are involved in an accident and God have mercy, you survive the accident, you are able to jump into another vehicle and drive. But people who don't have money, they don't have that luxury. They don't have the luxury to be able to just leave the other one and go to the other one, or just go to any doctor and be attended to. So if there are such people, what can we do, us who are in this room, to make sure they are equally important, they are equally protected? So I know I have 5 minutes, but I'm going to make it in less than 5 minutes. I will skip the other, maybe just for context, global insurance penetration. When we are saying global insurance penetration, we are saying in the whole world, what level of protection is there in terms of insurance? It's 7%. And when we come down to Africa, it's 3%. When we come down to Zimbabwe, it's 1.7%. When we come from Zimbabwe to the rural areas, it's probably 0.00 something percent. So those are the issues that we have. When it comes to pension coverage, globally, it's 54%. But you see, when we come down to Africa, around 9%. So when we are talking about pension coverage, we are saying the number of people who have a pension savings plan against the total population with respect to the labor force. So Zimbabwe has a labor force, according to Zimstat, of 4 million, but we have about 900,000 people who have a pension savings scheme. So if you have such percentages, in fact, other statistics say globally, particularly in the developed countries, 1 in 3 people has a pension savings plan. But when you come to Africa, you come to the developing countries, it's 1 in 10. You get the point? So those are the challenges that we have. So if we have such issues How about the informal sector? How about rural communities? Where are they? Those are the challenges that we are facing. Then the limitations, these have been talked about. They are the same both in banking, in insurance, in capital markets. The limitations are the same. But why inclusive insurance and pensions? Like I said, we are all a risk away from happening. So if we are all a risk away from happening, there is need to make sure that we manage the risk that is just away from happening, which can happen anytime. So insurance is there to protect individuals from unforeseen risks and financial shocks. And retirement planning, which can come in the form of pensions, it provides income security post-retirement. So these are key, regardless of your status, whether you stay in the urban areas or in the rural areas, you still need these. What have we done as IPEC to promote insurance and pension inclusion? Number one, we developed a micro insurance framework in 2017. This micro insurance framework, it breaks down or facilitates access to insurance for entities, for insurance companies. We have removed the minimum capital requirements that may be restrictive for other people to come in. And once you have come in, you are able to then offer insurance products that meet the needs of the marginalized. From that same microinsurance framework, we have been able to license 15 microinsurance entities. But out of the 15 microinsurance entities, at the moment, we have 4 that are operational. The main products, interestingly, which the microinsurers are offering, the main driver there is legal aid. I guess people are very much worried about being sued and stuff. Then we have also promoted agricultural insurance. Why this is key, particularly for African countries here in Zimbabwe, climate change for us here in Zimbabwe, last year, it demonstrated how climate change can be so impactful in terms of affecting communities. And from that, we initiated an agricultural index insurance, and we had a pilot project in Goromonzi. Last week, we had a payout to about 1,800 farmers who participated in this project. We collaborated with the International Finance Corporation and the Access to Insurance Initiative. 1,800, but 4,000 had registered to participate, but they were unable to pay the $15 premium, which was required. So out of those, only 1,800 managed to pay the premium. So those are the ones who were paid $65 each last week, the 1,800 farmers, the smallholder farmers. And of those, 65% of them are women. Only 35% are men. Then the micro pensions framework, the other things you will read, I know time is not on our side. Key takeaways, obviously, the importance of insurance, but the most important thing that I want to, the last slide, this one, the famous Nokia CEO. He said we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. So for you who are in this room, we don't want you to quote the same statement, to say you did nothing wrong, but somehow you lost. So if you don't want to lose, make sure that you do the right thing. You include the marginalized in whatever that you are doing in terms of policy formulation, in terms of the products that you develop. Always remember the marginalized who are the majority. With those remarks, I wish to hand back to the facilitator. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. My dad was a standard 6. May his soul rest in peace. But before he died, he said, without insurance, we will kill the living in order to bury the dead. So I think you all understand what happens when someone dies. Anyway, I'll not go into that. Next is Dr. Ethel Mpambwa. She's representing Zamfi. She's a board member. I will not allow her to stand before I say this. She's the girl from Gokwe. Nembudzia. I think those who have interacted with her, you know this statement. The girl from Gokwe. She's an award-winning, what do you call it, Doc? ABH, Africa Business Hero. She won and she was the second runner-up. Now she's here with us representing Zamfi. I will not talk about the organization that she founded for now. She will talk about it herself. Doc, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. Today I'm not coming from Nembudzia Gokwe. I'm coming from the capital city because I'm wearing the Zamfi green jacket. Yes. So I'm going to be very quick. I'm representing my board chairman, Mr. Sochinganga, and the ED himself, Mr. Godfrey Chitambo. I'm sure you know him very well. So we are talking about empowering the marginalized through innovative microfinancing. And what should we do as microfinance institutions? Is it working? Okay, I'll not talk about the statistics. I'm sure the drama did justice to this. And we all know the story. It is about the marginalized communities. But I had a question to say, when we talk about all these marginalized issues and what is microfinancing, can you just tell the person next to you, kuti microfinance achisi chimbadzo, usashedzera. Just whisper about that. So I love that. I love that. So, when we talk about microfinance, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about empowerment. We are talking about access. I'm having so much arguments, and I really loved the Malawi lady, the question she gave us to say is just receiving money and sending to the next person through my mobile phone. Can we testify that that person is included? I answered myself because it's a question that we always ask ourselves when we are sitting in our offices. So this is microfinance, ladies and gentlemen. It's empowerment. It's micro-housing, understanding those marginalized groups. And without data, you are just another person with an opinion. Please be quiet. Don't stand amongst us, especially we coming from Zamfi. I caught this from Edwards Deming. And as I say this, we are saying this is the reality check. 70% are unbanked in Africa. 80% underbanked. 95% of the SMEs are non-digitalized. But guess what? About 80% on a mobile phone. And 60% have access to internet. I've heard about Elon Musk here, whatever it is, but it was disappointing in the past few weeks. But I'm sure something will happen for that statistic to increase. And we are saying with these statistics, we need to do something as MFIs to make sure that we unlock those innovative models. And number one thing is to set the infrastructure right. Facilitation of financial and digital literacy. You are not going to expect yourself to bring your Mercedes-Benz in my road of Nembudzia Gokwe. You have to make sure there's a better road there, and you have to travel that low and enjoy yourself. The same concept is needed here. Big data analytics, ladies and gentlemen, the issues of alternative credit scoring is not a joke. In this life and age we are living, so often I'm asking my fellow colleagues to say, is it the only investment in Zimbabwe just to buy a house? Why should we all be just buying a house and just place it there and I'm satisfied? Can I not do something innovative with the money in my hands that I'm using to buy my house? And my financial institution would accept that I don't have a title deed and still save me. Alternative credit assessment. digital identity. For marginalized groups, we just need to understand that the time is now and here, where even if I do not have my ID, I should not be turned away and be refused to transact, yet I have a fingerprint, yet I have a face that I've made to approach you and talk to you. And thanks to Paul, I started imagining a lot of things. I don't know if these biometric issues, we can even consider our feet, if someone does not have hands but a feet, and we take that other thing. But this is the extent where we need to go so that we include everyone. Mobile-based banking, we heard it, 80% of people have got a mobile phone today. And what are we doing? The USDD systems and platforms, we need to utilize that for transacting. And these are the digital microfinancing models that microfinance institutions can use. It seems expensive, but these ones can come on shared platforms. I don't know, it's a plea for us from the Zamfi table to say, innovators, those developers, is there not a system where we can share as young MFIs and have satisfaction, and each one will be mindful of their data on that system? Please, we are looking for that. We should not exclude anyone, because cloud computing is the way to go now, because we need that self-service to be on demand. These are the channels that we can use. Agents banking, it has been talked about, and as microfinance institutions, we can use agents banking. Digital wallets. Digital wallets issues, ladies and gentlemen, it's not for banks, it's not for MNOs, even for us MFIs. There are times that if I give my client cash, they will not utilize it in that proper manner that they have to use it, what they've applied for. Why don't I give my client a token and for them to go and take that fertilizer, that seed, and they go farming because I've disbursed a token via a wallet? It is very possible. And you all win, both yourself and your client. I will not go into the others. I think we have talked about that. Even remittance partnerships, the issues are still pain points. So this is what we should do. We need to leverage on the cloud so that we enhance our operational efficiencies. And the flexibility is needed, ladies and gentlemen. Understanding our client as an individual, not as a group. Did we hear this? Let's understand the client as an individual, not as a group. Let's stop building our products and services in our aircon offices and not go to the client and understand that one client and just have product for just that one particular client and serve them better. And yes, the use of artificial intelligence, it's here with us, it's not going anywhere. At one point in time, someone was busy calling me, wanting to ask some difficult question. I just said, go on your WhatsApp, type that question on that WhatsApp AI, you get the answer. Please, I'm a doctor, yes, but this knowledge I don't have. And we need to be able to make sure that the access is everywhere and anywhere. But for us to do this as MFIs, we really need interventions. The issues of patient funding, I'll not talk about it. Data cost, it has been talked about it. Internet connectivity. Data silos in our country are just too much. My client receives remittance from the diaspora. They transact on that mobile money wallet, but they cannot get a statement to prove to me as a microfinancier that they have these other financial resources so that I better credit score them. It's an issue that we need to look at, even at policy level. I talked about digital literacy, and I'm so glad when I got in the morning, there were students with me there. I made that whole table to start writing notes, those students. I said, you guys, listen and listen carefully. This is for you, not even for us. And then we are saying we need policies that instill confidence and security for us. And coming from the table of Zamfi, we are saying it's not a time that we need the brick and mortar branches anymore. The mobile phone will go. And what we are doing as Zamfi, we are vetting for you the digital service providers, unlocking the capacity concerns through our shared resources, knowledge transfer and capacity building, and diverse knowledge that spans creativity and promote change. And if you are here and you're a microfinance institution and you have not joined our association, we are saying, please join us today, not any other day. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Before I joined the microfinance sector, I always thought microfinance is where you borrow in coins and pay in notes. But once I joined, I then remembered, no, this is actually productive lending. So thank you for that presentation. You sounded like an IT person. No wonder you have a head of fintech in your company. Next we have Kuzi Nuwe. I think I like doctors because they have the simplest of bios. Deputy Director, Rehabilitation Services, Ministry of Health and Child Care. Done. These guys from Commerce, they'll give you 5 pages of introduction. You're welcome.
I recognize Deputy Director, Deputy Governor, RBZ. I also recognize Honorable Senator Anashiri. I recognize you. All the dignitaries here present, may I be allowed to say all protocols observed, just because of time. So what I'm going to be talking about is, I'm going to be talking about the National Assistive Technology Strategy that was launched on the 24th of May this year. This is the document that I will be talking about, the hard copy of it. I'll also be talking about the assistive product priority list. This is the document, the hard copy of it. You will all get soft copies. And we also have the Braille copies of the same documents. This is the Braille copy of the National Assistive Technology Strategy. This is the Braille copy of the assistive product priority list. So for arrangements of those copies, you see the organizers, the RBZ organizers, you'll get your copies. So that being a summary of what I will present on, it's quite hard to squash a 15-minute presentation to 5 minutes, but I'll try to make it happen. So there was a capacity assessment that was done by the country in 2002. It was a multi-sectoral capacity assessment that involved quite a number of ministries: Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Ministry of Health and Child Care, Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education. So the key findings that maybe you can read some of those things. I will not mention most of them, but the key ones were that we had limited domestic funding. We also have product fragmentation of stakeholders and service provision, and limited workforce, data fragmentation. So those are some of the key findings that were done in the assistive technology field. So what then happened is we then said, let's make an action after this assessment. And we used the data. I'll just briefly summarize that because time is not on our side. But of the latest results of the 2022 population census, almost more than 1.2 million people have some form of disability in Zimbabwe. So it's quite a huge number. And if you look at those graphs on your side, you'll find that seeing the visual impairments are they contribute the majority, followed by the one-termed walking, which is the physical. So if you add all these other ones, the hearing, the cognition, self-care and communication disabilities, the number goes to more than 1.2 million, which is quite a significant number of the population. So what then did we, what have I done? Okay. So then a steering committee was set up, which came up with a theory of change. And then if you look at the bottom of that graph, you'll see those are the gaps. Identified 4 gaps. And then as you go up with the arrows, you'll see those are the activities that were planned, outputs, outcomes. The goal was to amplify the reach of assistive technology in Zimbabwe. And then we also had a vision of a Zimbabwe where everyone in need has access to appropriate assistive technology. So what was the next step then after that theory of change? Right. One of the activities was to form a multi-sectoral technical working group, which composed of Minister of Health and Child Care, Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Minister of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development. We also, in that technical working committee, had several other stakeholders, persons with disabilities themselves, OPDs, development partners, regulatory authorities like Standard Association of Zimbabwe, research and innovation hubs from universities. We also had UN agencies and AT manufacturers. So that was quite a comprehensive multi-sectoral technical working group, and you will see the list from your documents. What did then the technical working group do? Right, it produced that document that we were, after a rigorous process starting from 2023. Then we also produced the strategy. Then we produced we revised the T98 form, which is a data collection form in the Ministry of Health that collects data on disability. Then finally, it culminated in this launch of those documents on the 24th of May. Then I will not go word for word, but we've got 6 objectives in the strategy. You will read them on your own. But the first one is to develop a policy on AT in Zimbabwe. I think we need to have a policy as a country on assistive technology. Then the second one is to ensure equitable access to appropriate AT and services. The third one is to enhance the competency and proficiency of professionals in AT. Number 4, to advance AT through research, innovation, and development. The 5th one is to facilitate equitable access to AT during national disasters. I think most of you will remember the cyclone Idai in the Chimanimani area. Then we also have the last objectives being to implement monitoring and evaluation mechanisms for AT programs. Right, having done that, I'm now running down through the other document. The second document, the list. That big committee sat down and did a lot of consultations, and we also borrowed from the recommendations from the World Health Organization, which recommended about 50 assistive technology products. But as a country, we sat down and added 5 more. So we have 55 recommended assistive technology products in Zimbabwe, and that list is just a rundown of some of them. And as a country, we divided them into domains like cognition devices, hearing devices, and then we also have mobility devices, and then last but not least, there are visual. There's self-care devices as well as visual. But of note, I think if you look at number 39, that was an addition for Zimbabwe, the urine catheter and bag. Then number 40 was also an addition to the recommended list from WHO. That is a Zimbabwe addition, the incontinence products, the colostomy bag. We also have number 42, sunscreen lotions. I think people are actually saying we did quite a good job. No other country has done that, has included sunscreen lotions. Right, so that is the summary of, there are about 55 of them. You will read them in the document. I'm rushing because of time. Then this is the key priorities for Zimbabwe. We're saying there's need for financing for assistive technology. As financial gurus here, let's go home thinking that there's a big gap in terms of financing for provision of assistive technology. We also need to upscale or to improve local production of AT products. We also need to exemption of taxes on duty and imported AT products, because at the moment we are importing quite a number of them. So if we get assurance, which is almost there from ZIMRA and Minister of Finance, to exempt almost all those things that are listed on the list. Then local training, and then strong ministerial, departmental, and agency intercollaboration. We'll get somewhere if we do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc. I think for the past few years, I really didn't understand what was meant by leaving no one and no place behind. But after this presentation, I now have an appreciation. We have doctors at the Reserve Bank Summit. That's quite interesting. So we now move on to our sixth presenter, Ms. Farah Mpofu. Sorry about what happened earlier.
No problem at all.
Yes, she's the Director, Investor Education at SECZIM. And one thing I also like about her is she's a corporate communications person. And me and her, we worked at FBC with the current governor. So over and above us being your chairs, we are also your governors. Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Mo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And please, can we go to my second last slide? I think in the interest of time, I think my slides will be moved at the back because I literally will just dwell on two. It's the one with the value chain, the baked beans. The next one, thank you very much, that one. Mr. Moderator, this is just to return the focus to the reason why we are in this room, and ultimately, we believe that the capital market is one of the greatest mobilizers of capital, and it is able to direct it to where that capital ought to be deployed, that is in productive activity. And I think a number of my colleagues have done this topic justice during the course of the day. So here in this slide, in your own time, you will see us trying to illustrate this by including our sisters, where our Director of Ceremonies hails from the East, and they are cultivating a white bean, which is what we find in our baked beans. This is purely a notional slide for you to be able to process why it is we are wanting to talk financial literacy, financial inclusion, and to what end ultimately to deploy capital in a way that is meaningful for the actors at the most vulnerable level, who also can then participate in the value chain and become investors or issuers, grow their small businesses into bigger businesses so that they too in time can list either on the known exchanges, the smaller exchanges, or on new exchanges, so that we also then get to invest in new entities, new companies that are being issued, which means that our children, for example, can invest not in the, to give examples, the Deltas and the OKs and the First Capitals, but in new companies which are created by people amongst us in this room and our sisters in the fields who are currently growing the white bean for the baked beans. That was just a slight digression, but really the main part of my very short presentation is to acknowledge the role played by earlier presenters, including Dr. Kuzi, thank you very much, and your colleague in, was it El Salvador, Paul, who spoke about disabilities. And really my final slide is to talk about inclusion, and inclusion of just one category of those that have visual impairment, and the work that the capital markets has done in a short way to attempt to include by venturing down the route of Braille material. So without taking much more time, let me allow the team to move to the next slide where there is an embedded link, and I will literally stop presenting and perhaps we can watch the video on full volume. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Many centuries, and they keep changing as the global economy changes. Markets were a critical part of global capitalism, which took center stage during industrialization in the 17th and 18th centuries. Industrial growth during that time was partly financed through equity capital from investors. The basis of any share investment is the principle of limited liability, which says shareholders are only legally responsible for the company's debt only to the extent of the amount of capital investment. This principle encouraged people to invest in companies as shareholders without worrying about personal liability for its debt. Limited liabilities principles provided the platform for the formation of the public company and international capital markets as well known them today. Probably the most recognizable feature of capital markets is a stock exchange. Stock exchanges are markets where shares and stocks are bought and sold. It is also a platform where capital is raised to fund operations of businesses as well as local authorities, municipalities and rural district councils and central government. I thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Nothing about us without us. I think that's all. That's exactly what we saw there. I wanted to ask you to maybe to explain to me what was really happening, but maybe we'll do that in the next question and answer segment. Was it that one translating for that one, or that one was translating for that? Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. Maybe you tell me later. Okay, next we have Dr. Vengesai Magadzire. He's the Deputy Director of Economics, Tariffs and Competition at Potras. I think Lloyd, this is the guy who will answer our question, who regulates mobile money. Thank you.
Allow me to, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished delegates, to ride on the protocol already observed. Can you see me from the back? I'm not that gifted upwards or vertically. And it reminds me of what I saw on social media that circulated last month, I think, which said, and I quote, "Let's sell short people so that we put that man for development." And I close quote. Like the moderator had said, my name is Dr. Vengesai Magadzire. I'm from Potras, and for the benefit of our visitors and also distinguished delegates that are joining us online, Potras stands for the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe. It came into being in 2000 by an act of parliament, and it is mandated to ensure the provision of sufficient domestic and international telecommunications. It is also mandated to exercise licensing and regulatory functions and to promote development of postal and telecommunication services in accordance with the international standards. Importantly too, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to mention that Potras, which is the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, is mandated, importantly, to promote interests of consumers in respect of quality and variety of postal and telecommunication services, as well as to monitor tariffs charged by postal and telecommunications with a view to eliminate unfair business practices. And importantly too, ladies and gentlemen, Potras is mandated to further advancement of technology relating to postal and telecommunications systems. And it is also an advisor to government through our minister on all matters to do with the postal and telecommunication systems. I thought maybe it's important that I highlight this important piece of information for the benefit of those that are joining us from different countries. I think in my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, I think you are going to agree with me, is going to be nothing else other than maybe the summary of what has been talked about. Not by design, but because most of the things that have been talked about have been addressed, and they also speak directly to what I was going to talk about. So I think it's going to act as a summary of all the presentations that we have had. But allow me at this point in time to highlight what Potras is doing as far as maybe the interventions in connection with the people or persons with disabilities. Potras is to date, I think from 2016 to 2022, distributed 547 ICT gadgets to 44 institutions housing people or persons with disabilities. And it has also provided internet connectivity to 33 institutions housing persons or people with disabilities in 2022 alone. And we have conducted basic ICT skills training to 251 persons with disabilities from 7 institutions in 2023, from 2023 to date. And the picture that you are seeing, distinguished delegates, on your screens is a picture that was taken in Masvingo province, where we were carrying out basic ICT skills training. And that picture, ladies and gentlemen, went on to win the WSIS, that's the World Summit on the Information Society photo contest for 2024. Potras is very passionate in as far as maybe inclusivity is concerned. But my topic is on the role of fintech in financial inclusion, and also paying particular attention to AT, that's assistive technology. And what is fintech, by the way? In summary, fintech is a line of business on using technology for providing financial services. I think it has been talked a lot today. I won't go further. In actual fact, financial technology facilitates, in summary, some of the most up-and-coming forms of payments that we see today. That's the digital wallets, the mobile banking, digital currencies, and almost everyone that stood before us was talking about the mobile banking, the digital wallets, and their capacity and the empowerment of provisions that they have for financial inclusivity. Financial technology actually has introduced new ways to expand access to financial services. It has actually expanded the range of services on offer, both for experienced customers and for unbanked people gaining access to transactions, possibly for the first time, and also those that have also been using the financial services. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this point has been emphasized several times, and it's very, very important in summary that I also mentioned this. Financial technology opens up opportunities for female entrepreneurs. It allows women to use digital platforms. It also allows them to access capital. It allows them to do various activities, including crowdfunding, and actually to manage their finances with greater ease. So financial technology is very, very important for women in terms of promoting economic development as far as maybe women are concerned. Importantly too, fintech offers banking services to people in rural areas or in rural remote communities. And mobile banking and digital payment platforms are bridging the gap for those far from the usual bricks and mortar banks, offering essential services like bank transfers, bill payments, and savings accounts. Financial technology is offering financial services to people that are excluded or people that have been excluded and people that live in very remote areas. Nowadays, we can all agree that the coming in of mobile money, e-wallets, have also touched it even in the very remotest parts of the country and the remotest parts of the world. I'm not so sure why it's not responding quickly enough. But I think we also need to emphasize the importance of understanding assistive technology. And in summary, assistive technologies encompass devices, software, or tools that help people with disabilities or persons with disabilities to overcome their challenges. They actually range from simple aids to more advanced solutions like augmented reality, extended reality, and artificial intelligence, among many other emerging technologies that include even blockchain and many other emerging technologies, as has been emphasized here today. If AT bridge the gap between disability and accessibility. And I think this is very, very important because it empowers individuals to navigate the digital world. And I think Paul has highlighted earlier on that over maybe 15% of the world's population lives with a disability. So this also leaves many people without access to maybe financial inclusion. So in general, financial technology provides personalized financial services with assistive technology to people with a disability, helping them to overcome barriers to inclusion. And notable assistive technology applications include Envision artificial intelligence, which recognizes and describes visual information in real time, and Seeing AI, which also is based on advanced AI and recognized object recognition, text-to-speech conversion, facial recognition. The previous speaker also mentioned, talked about maybe identity, and facial recognition is actually one of the identities that can actually be used, which is being used by assistive technology to identify people. And we also have Cash Reader, which is very, very important for financial inclusion. It identifies and announces the denomination of banknotes, allowing people living with disabilities to enjoy financial freedom and also to enjoy independence and also to manage their finances on their own. We also have what we call Be My Eyes, which is a unique AET application that facilitates remote assistance for individuals with visual impairments. And this is very, very important because it allows social cohesion. It allows other people remotely to assist those that are face challenges. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to emphasize that there are still challenges. We still face coordination and implementation of an IT ecosystem, which is the greatest challenge in ensuring access for all. There is need for products that are affordable. This is very, very important. I think a doctor also talked about that. It's very, very important that the gadgets are affordable. And the solutions one of the solutions that he mentioned is collaborative approach to the same, including all stakeholders. For example, Zimbra, like in his example. It is also important that assistive technology is suitable for every person. I think this is very, very important. There's a general belief that people that live with disabilities are the same. They are different. Their needs are different. So it is very, very important to have assistive technology that speaks to every person, that is suitable for every person. And the IT ecosystem, the assistive technology ecosystem, needs to be active. It needs to reflect local experience. It also needs to reflect language and culture. And it should combine awareness, assessment of needs, provision, training, and many, many other issues, including further research based on rights-based policies. So this is very, very important. This is something that we need to work on as regulators, and also emphasizing the importance of collaboration, because it doesn't touch one regulator, it touches many regulators. There is more that needs to be done to extend the benefits of ICTs to all. I had some discussions earlier on that connectivity is a challenge. We need ICTs to all areas. ICTs have to be made accessible to persons living with disabilities. So these technologies constitute an opportunity so that they don't on themselves become a barrier. And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I think you will all agree with me that true progress is measured not just by technological advancement, but by the extent to which these innovations create meaningful opportunities for every individual. This is very important, ladies and gentlemen. We may celebrate technology, but if it doesn't extend to to everyone. If it doesn't create meaningful opportunity for every individual, then it leaves other people, and then it is not balanced development. It also should ensure a world where digital empowerment is a universal right and not a privilege. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use this modern balance that I'm signing out. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I think an action point, an action point for Ma'am Shosho, I think we need a financial inclusion policy for the tall as well as the short. We should not exclude them. Thank you very much, Doc. I think we'll take this time. We only have 10 minutes to take questions. So as the mic is going around, I think I'll pose a question to Lawrence, Lloyd, and Dr. Ethel. Lawrence is representing BAS, IPEC, and Zamfi. We all know what happened in Mbare. What is your position? I don't want to put too much words. What is your position, and what have you done to help the marginalized in Mbare? Maybe you answer that later. We'll take one or two questions. Then the mic. Or should I allow them to answer? Then we.
Sorry?
I'd asked a question to these three. I'm saying, should I allow them to answer
It's
before
okay,
we take?
they can briefly respond,
Okay,
and then
that's
we.
fine.
Thank you. In terms of what happened in Bari, it's quite an unfortunate development, which is quite regrettable. But looking forward, I think from where banks sit, there is need for the development of proper infrastructure. It's an opportunity to modernize Mbare, and I believe that banking institutions will find it worthwhile to explore how they can participate in terms of funding, in terms of providing the requisite infrastructure. So going forward, I look forward to seeing Mbare, which has got a good infrastructure, modern infrastructure, which has got modern payment solutions, and which allows our traders to advance into the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerald. So, every time there's a fire outbreak in these MSMEs structures, people then talk about insurance. I think what is key is for one to prepare before an event has occurred. The Insurance Council of Zimbabwe has a consortium where they insure for risks that can be taken by one insurer. And MSMEs is one area where we are collaborating with the Ministry of Women's Affairs as well as the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe to educate the business development officers from the provinces and from the districts about insurance as a risk management tool. So our expectation is that after we have educated them, they will then cascade down the same knowledge to the MSMEs in their respective areas. But with respect to the fire outbreaks that have been happening, our role is to educate the MSMEs on why it's important for them to prepare, for such kind of risks that they face, and also for the insurers to come on board and make sure they develop products that are also appropriate for the MSMEs. That's one area where we've been encouraging the insurers to avoid confirmation bias when they're coming up with products, but to develop products based on what the market needs. So if you look at the MSMEs, they're wide. You have MSMEs who are into manufacturing. You have maybe MSMEs who are in agriculture. You have MSMEs in other sectors. All these different sectors have different needs. So it's critical that insurers develop products that meet the needs of these MSMEs based on what they say they need, not to assume that these are the risks that they face and we develop products without engaging them. Otherwise, the uptake would be very low. Thank you.
Thank you, Munya, for that. It's an emotional event that happened. But I always say financial inclusion is a deliberate action. We are not just talking words here. it is a point at this time where we need to instill confidence to such a market so that they continue to believe in us as financial institutions. Please allow me to play a video of Manmat Finance with regards to this. But if it's just a 4-minute video.
Unfortunately, Madam, we will play it tomorrow. Right now, can we just respond to the questions? And I will ask the speakers to be straight to the point in responding to the questions.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So it is at a point like this that, you know, educating a people whom we are trying to have a trust is very difficult. And in these circumstances, that is where we need to stand up so that they can hear us and be deliberate about it. So for us as Manmat Finance, we managed to go to Mbari because these are our clientele. And we have assured them that, you know what, everything that has gone under fire, we are writing off. And we are here to support you again to be on your feet as long as you are a Manmat Finance client. Because we are understanding we need to suffer together with them so that they believe in financial institutions and they can continue to trade with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Senator Shiri would like to pose a question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the informative presentations. Assistive devices, they are very expensive. We need assistive technology as persons with disabilities, even for inclusion. So I want to urge all the banks and institutions here, microfinance institutions, to also invest in making sure that they also fund research or products for persons with disabilities. Then as a country, we do have the National Disability Policy, which was launched in 2021. It's very clear that disability is not a charity case. We are now moving from the charity case model to the development. Seeing persons with disabilities as people who can also contribute meaningfully. So maybe I can say we sometimes donate. Yes, we appreciate that there is this El Nino drought. Donate food hampers for 1 million. If we take that 1 million Kaitama starter packs and empower persons with disabilities, zvinotibatsira kuti achieve inclusive development for persons with disabilities. So I just want to urge all the players to treat disability as development, not as charity. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Senator Shiri. Yes, we'll take 4 burning questions. 4 burning questions. I'll ask the panelists to take note of the questions as they come through. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Gune from the Consumer Protection Commission. I was listening the whole day from the discussions that we're having, and I feel like there is one link that has not been thoroughly touched on. Financial inclusion without consumer protection is going to be a waste because all the benefits will be lost. You all agree with me that as we sit all today, we are consumers, and most of the time, where also we try to use the technology, we end up having problems. You have had an experience where you are in a supermarket and maybe you're trying to use EcoCash, it doesn't work, you are forced to leave your trolley at the pay point. Those experiences are not helping our consumers. So in our discussion, as we discuss, let us input consumer protection matters in the development of these policies to make sure that our consumers are not shortchanged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Raise our mic. More questions for our panelists. Do I see a hand? Okay, I see. Yes, and then Madam here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jason, head EVB within Stanbic Bank. So it's not a question per se, but it's a humble appeal to BAZ to lobby for the removal of the 2% to persons living with disabilities, to women and the youth. Thank you.
All right, there is a hand here. Madam here has a hand up.
Thank you very much. I am Gladys Shumbambiri from Intelligent Business Consultancy. My question is, how are we being inclusive to include our children? I know in the morning we have talked about inclusion of financial education in the school curriculum, but how are we capacitating the parent who stays 90% with the child with regards to financial education? Because I believe that if the parent is capacitated, the parent can also pass on the financial education to the child. So what are you doing, all the panelists in your representations, to capacitate parents regarding financial education? Thank you.
All right, 2 last questions, and as far as Gladys's question is concerned, I'll just ask one of the panelists to respond, not all of them. 2 last questions, please. Yes, madam.
Thank you. My name is Priscilla Munyeza. I am Managing Director of a DFI called AFC Land and Development Bank. I just want to firstly appreciate the outstanding work that is being championed by our central bank, led by Dr. Chipika, in the area of financial inclusion. I think since morning, that message has been communicated very effectively, even through dance and song. I think it's a good feeling that we are part of something that's bigger than our individual selves. My contribution or my quick questions coming from an agricultural background is that I'm very keen to tap into any programs that may be running that assist DFIs and companies or financial organizations to be accredited recipients of climate funds, which we hear are available globally. And my second issue is around learning and training on ESG reporting and impact reporting as well. Thank you, I submit.
The last question. All right, yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was listening to the interesting discussions that we've had since morning. However, I saw a very big gap that we have. We're talking about inclusion, educating, and training. However, I want to believe we're missing a very important part. And we're changing the curriculum, but then it's not enough to theoretically educate. Children need to be taught physically, given the opportunity to have these financial services so that they can test them, try them at a very young age, maybe as young as 5, so that they can get to understand what needs to be done and how it's then done from a very young age. How best can we assist in this? Because I know minors opening an account, that's not possible with the banks that I've familiarized myself with. A child opening an Econet wallet is impossible because there's a legal age that's required for them to have such an account. How best can we assist so that at least we can, in my view, catch them young, at maybe the age of 5, and allow them to, use these activities, these services, and grow to accept them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Let's go back to our panel. They can each respond to any of the questions, just one question per panel. Thank you, panelist.
Thank you very much, Madam Director of Ceremonies. I wanted to just go back to the question from the Consumer Protection Commission, which was talking about consumer protection. And I think some of the gaps that appear to exist may emanate from the fact that maybe our presentations were somewhat truncated, Madam Director of Ceremonies. However, looking at the capital market and the mandate of the capital market regulator, SECSIM, we have two activities that we are required to do as per the Act. One is to ensure that the markets are free and fair and operate in a manner that is transparent and which enables participation. But secondly, we are required to provide consumer education, or rather I should say consumer protection. And as a commission, we believe that there are two ways of providing protection, coming back to the question. It is provided, obviously, you protect through compensation if something should go wrong when you've been dealing with a regulated licensee. But secondly, you are protected by being exposed to education so that you can proactively and in an informed manner gauge for yourself whether the conversation you are having with the service provider is open and honest and covers all the areas that you wish to discuss. For example, if you are a potential investor, the person you're engaging with should be taking you through your risk appetite, what your investment agenda or philosophy is, and ultimately to direct you to the correct product. So education in our reckoning is actually the first port of call for consumer protection. And then all other measures, which I think my fellow panelists have discussed, also then provide another level of protection. So education in itself, to summarize, is a form, a very firm form, which can start at a very early age in response to the other questioner, can provide that protection. And just to comment on the issue you asked to say, the video was the launch of the Braille version of an Investment 101 handbook, which is making equities investments and the whole array of capital market products open to persons who are visually impaired. And also we had the signing exercise to indicate that we have ambitions to ensure that our material is available to the segment, which we believe is now the biggest minority. Thank you.
Yes, we can have, yes, you'd like to respond, Doctor?
Sure. There's a question on what are we doing with children. And I do agree, financial literacy for children starts from the age of 3 years. And we often teach this in our financial literacy programs. And as an institution for us where we are coming from, we have seen that gap of noting that a child cannot have a wallet because they are underage. We are working on a solution where we can give a child a wristwatch, which is a digital wallet in itself connected to their guardian or parent. So when they want to make any transaction, whether it's at school, they want to buy something from the tuck shop, the parent or the guardian has to put a pin from their wallet. And they can give that child a budget to say, you have $5 in this wallet in your watch for the week, and that's enough for the week, and see what to do. So these are initiatives that we are trying to instill in children and also in parents, so that they also realize that children need at least pocket money. They need also to make a decision that if I buy ice cream today of $2, it means I spend another $1 during my 5-week school-going period, and I will not have another ice cream in one of the days. Thank you.
All right, and I think there was a question from Madam here that was directed to all the panelists, but I'll just ask maybe one of the panelists who hasn't yet spoken to respond to that particular question. Potras, maybe?
Thank you, Madam Director. May you refresh my mind on the specific question. I think the subject is interesting. There have been many questions and many comments. Is on what?
ESG reporting and accreditation of institutions so that they are able to access green funds.
Okay.
Okay, I think we can allow Bas to respond.
Indeed,
Yeah,
I was going
thank
to
you.
say that.
Thank you very much. I think that in terms of ESG reporting, I'm aware, I think if we had the stock exchange, they were going to explain to us that There are new rules in terms of financial sector reporting, which are kicking in, I think, starting early next year, where banks will be expected to disclose their sustainability activities and the measurables and the impact that they are making thereof. So there are many frameworks in terms of ESG reporting and measurement. I think that even at regulatory level, we still, as an economy, have to come up with parameters that can be used, starting with what the stock exchange has done. But I think it's also incumbent upon banks to adopt ESG strategies going forward from practices, from a strategy point of view, from a reporting point of view, and from an impact assessment point of view. So it's a fairly fresh area in our market, but we are happy that there are legal instruments that are now being put in place to make sure that banks are guided in terms of how they participate in ESG-related activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you to my panelists. A round of applause for my panelists, guys. Thank you very much. I think my take home, especially from what transpired in the morning, I think financial literacy, we've talked about it, and we are still talking about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. So maybe what I would say is probably financial literacy is the bridge between financial inclusion and sustainable financial inclusion. That would be my take home. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. You may take your seats. And over to you, Linda. Linda on Thursday.
A round of applause as our regulators take their seats. One question I would have loved to ask Potros, but we can always address it tomorrow, in line with what Dr. Mpofu asked earlier on, is how Potros is utilizing the Universal Services Fund to ensure telecommunications services reach marginalized areas. Okay, we can address it tomorrow. But thank you very much. Another round of applause for our panel that was led by Gerald. There you've had it, ladies and gentlemen. This was day one of the Financial Inclusion Conference 2024, running under the theme From Policy to Practice, where we were looking at actionable, practical solutions around enhancing financial inclusion in Zimbabwe. And this brings us to the end of day one. I know there are so many more other questions for our regulators and the different stakeholders that are part of this conference. And it is my sincere hope that we will be able to tackle and address those questions tomorrow. So another round of applause for every single person who has come here and said something.